I'll call to order the Complaint Committee meeting for the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force at this time. It's 5:30. I'd like to welcome the complainants and respondents to the hearing, to the committee meeting. We go item by item, and please be patient with some of them. So,
item number 1.
that's the
Roll call and agenda changes.
Okay.
Item number 1, call to order, roll call and agenda changes. Roll call, Fiona Hinsey.
Present.
Fiona Hinsey present, Matthew Yankee.
Present.
Matthew Yankee present, Chair Rodman Martin.
Present.
Chair Rodman Martin. We have a quorum. Item number 2, approval of the February 26, 2019 Complaint Committee meeting minutes. Any changes or
You see
things
any
to know about?
changes, Member Yankee?
So I will move to approve.
I'll second.
Let me take a vote on that.
Yes, please.
Vote. All right. Member Yankee?
Aye.
Member Yankee, aye. Member Hinsey?
Aye.
Member Hinsey, aye. Chair Martin?
Aye.
Chair Martin, aye. The meeting minutes have been approved. Item number 3? Yeah.
Public comment?
Yeah.
Item number 3, public comment. Members of the public may address the committee on matters that are within the committee's jurisdiction but not on today's agenda. Anybody?
See no public comment.
No public comment. Item number 4, file number 19015, complaint filed by Terrence Karasik against the Department of Human Resources for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 6721 by failing to respond to a public records request in a timely and/or complete manner. Is a complainant here?
Please come forward. You have, 5 minutes, Cheryl? Is it 3? Respondent here as well? Is there no
Department of Human Resources, are you guys here?
Did we get any notification from
No.
Department of
And
Human
I sent it to
Resources?
Susan Gard, Mickey Callahan. They are the DHR contacts over there, Susan Gard being the custodian of records. So,
Okay.
would you...
Do is you can see if there are parties here for the other matters, and then you can see if they can.
Okay, so is Mr. Karras? Yeah. So the respondent's not here. So, I mean, there's a couple options. One is we can have a few of the other matters go first and see if they show up and do it that way. I don't want to waste your time either. It's something we'll have to decide on how to proceed. This is a due process aspect to all this. So, if they claim they didn't get it or whatever, I mean, it sounds like Madam Clerk sent them everything.
A lot of emails sent from
Me.
Yeah. So, if you wouldn't mind, hanging out maybe, and we'll try to see if they're around or whatever.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Karasik.
Thank you. I don't know what's the official thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I'll move to table that for now.
Okay.
Second.
Go ahead and
Call the next item, Cheryl.
I know. Item number 5, file number 19017, complaint filed by Alika Vaifi, I hope I pronounced your name right, Asian American Advancing Justice, Asian Law Caucus, Jeffrey Wang, Council on American Islamic Relations, San Francisco Bay Area, Alan Schlosser, Northern California American Civil Liberties Union of Northern California against Lieutenant Catherine Whalen and the Police Department for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 6721 by failing to respond to a public records request in a timely and/or complete manner.
All right, is the complainant here? How are you? And is the respondent here? Okay. Complainant, you can come forward. And how do we pronounce? I don't want to butcher your last
No
name.
problem. It looks easy, but it's not. Alika Vafai.
Okay, I just want to put on the record I have done volunteer work for the Asian Law Caucus through their workers' rights clinic. Anyway. I don't think it's going to impact my ability to do my duties today. Just in case you're not familiar how the Complaints Committee works, it's not a meeting before the full task force. So if we decide there's enough to go forward, which there likely will be, you'll go in front of the full task force at a later date. Okay, we try to clear stuff up today. Okay, that's good. I think you get 5 minutes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Good evening. Thank you, committee members. As was noted, I represent the 3 organizations that filed this complaint, and we also represent the Arab, Middle Eastern, Muslim, South Asian communities here in San Francisco. I thought what would be helpful at this stage is to provide just a brief context for why there's a strong public interest and why we're seeking this document, and then also spend some time about the record itself and unpack some of the questions that came up in the city attorney memo. And of course, happy to answer any questions. In terms of the context, over the last 20 years, and specifically since 2012, we've been working with the community and with the city to address longstanding issues of hate crimes, Islamophobia, surveillance, and to make sure that San Francisco is a safe place for our communities, specifically by making sure that local government is following our local laws, right, that provide stronger protections rather than weaker federal laws, particularly by agencies like the FBI, where there's a long and tumultuous history of racial and religious profiling. I want to focus a bit on 2012 and the 79 organizations, community members, and the unanimous passage by the Board of Supervisors of the Safe San Francisco Civil Rights Ordinance, which requires SFPD officers that are cross-deputized as FBI officers as well through a public MOU with the Joint Terrorism Task Force, the JTTF. And that ordinance requires for local officers to follow local law, right? To make sure that San Francisco is a safe place for all of us. And that did come as a result of longstanding problems with the relationship with the FBI. And so we continue to work after the passage of this ordinance with the SFPD, with local officers as well, and the city to make sure there was compliance. We did have challenges with the compliance, largely on the FBI's end, which ultimately resulted in withdrawing from the JTTF altogether. And so that's really the important context. I'm happy to talk more about, the various public interest factors in that, but wanted to lay out why we're so vigilant about making sure our local laws are protected and adhered to. In terms of the public record before you this evening itself, as you see from our complaint and all of the documents we've attached, we requested this specific record both under the Sunshine Ordinance and the California Public Records Act. It is a white paper, an opinion on the public JTTF MOU. And the FBI's understanding of this public law. I wanted to clarify, based on the city attorney memo, that we first learned about this record after we filed a general records request in September of 2018, and we did receive responsive records, but the attachment, this one record at question, was not provided, and that's really the heart of our request, is this one document. I also wanted to clarify a few other matters for you as you look into referring this matter to the full Sunshine Ordinance Task Force. One, it seems like based on the packet for this evening that there's no question about jurisdiction or there's no outstanding questions. The city attorney memo seemed to say that there's no contest around jurisdiction. And so what I wanted to focus on is to making sure that this body looks at the actual Sunshine Ordinance violations, specifically sections 67.24D and I. I just wanted to note this is in our complaint and in the attachments, but it's missing from the city attorney memo. And specifically, the provisions we wanted to focus on is how the Sunshine Ordinance sharply limits when local officers can use state law exemptions. And I'm happy to get into why those state exemptions don't apply at all, but it seems like the purpose here is to really focus on the Sunshine Ordinance violations. And so 67.24D requires a balancing test for law enforcement exemptions, And it also requires a response as to why the exemptions are being sought under the Sunshine Ordinance. So just to summarize, I mean, from our complaint, in this instance, the SFPD hasn't provided the document and actually hasn't redacted any portions of the document, nor have they stated why the document is exempt or why they're withholding it under the Sunshine Ordinance specifically. So happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. You have 24 more seconds. Okay.
Okay, great. I'll take the 24 more seconds.
Okay.
Again, we're pursuing this matter because of the long history of this issue. The state law exemptions are discretionary, they're not mandatory, and we really want to focus on the Sunshine Ordinance violations itself. And for this reason, we're requesting that the committee refer this matter up to the full task force. And I will repeat again, happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Respondent?
Oh, sorry. Any witnesses to provide facts or evidence?
Right now.
Right. Yeah.
Respondent, 1 second. There's a little mix-up in the order. But is there any witnesses to provide?
Facts or evidence? Facts or evidence on behalf of the complainant.
Facts or evidence on behalf of the complainant? Any witnesses currently, right now? Not seeing any? Okay, now you can. What's your name, though?
Lieutenant Catherine Walland from San Francisco Police Department Legal Division.
Lieutenant, thank you for appearing.
Ready?
Yes. 5 minutes.
You may speak. Go ahead.
San Francisco Police Department received a request on September 14th. On September 24th of 2018, we invoked an extension pursuant to 6253C. On October 5th, we released responsive materials with exemption 6254F and 1040 for redacted privileged material. On October 12th, we received a communication from the requester resubmitting as an IDR. It was received after 5 p.m. on a Friday. On October 15th, we responded to the IDR. We stood by our initial determination as submitted on 10/5. We received follow-up information that they stated they didn't receive the request. It was provided through our public records request portal. We resent it. On January 10th of 2019, we received another request for the same document. We responded and stood by our initial determination of 6254F and 1040A. Admin code 6727A states that a withholding under a specific permissive exemption in the California Public Records Act or elsewhere, which permissive exemption is not forbidden to be asserted by this ordinance, shall cite that authority 6727B. It states a withholding on the basis that disclosure is prohibited by law shall cite the specific statutory authority in the Public Records Act or elsewhere. California Government Code Section 6254F allows SFPD to withhold records of intelligence or security procedures of a local police agency or any investigatory or security files compiled by local agency for law enforcement purposes. California Government Code 6254K exempts records, the disclosure of which is exempted or prohibited pursuant to federal or state law, including but not limited to provisions of the Evidence Code relating to privilege. Evidence Code 1040 provides SFPD with the privilege to not disclose information that is official information, which is information acquired in confidence by a public employee in the course of his or her duty and not open or officially disclosed to the public prior to the time the claim of privilege is made. It is a clear understanding between SFPD and the federal government that the document would only be shared if it was confidential. This was acquired in confidence. The federal government will not allow the public disclosure of that particular document. Is there any follow-up questions?
This is just your statement time, so that's it.
That's what I
okay.
got.
All right. Thanks, Lieutenant.
Witnesses,
in
yep.
Support with facts or other evidence in support of respondent. See none. Is it public comment?
We can just discuss now,
Oh, we can discuss. Okay.
and then we'll call them back up for their 3 minutes afterwards.
Okay,
Questions.
so
This is
questions
questions
for-
period.
If the respondent could come back up. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one question I had here was, you had mentioned that the federal government had communicated to you that this document cannot be released. Do you have a copy of that communication instructing you not to release it from someone at the federal government?
I do not know.
Do not. Was it oral or was there?
I don't know.
Oh, you don't know?
I don't know.
Okay.
what is your understanding of the document that the groups are trying to obtain? What is it? If you could describe it in layman's terms.
I cannot describe it.
Is it a memo? Has no one ever seen it? Like they said, has it not been produced at all, so there's no redactions, no one's seen it?
It has not been made publicly available.
Okay. But it exists?
I believe that there are so in the production that there was provided to the pursuant to the request, we provided a large number of emails, and that initial disclosure we stated, what redactions have been made or what things have been withheld pursuant to that code. So my understanding is that there's documents that were, redactions that were made and a document that was withheld.
And they're referenced in that email chain and they haven't been
Yes.
produced. Okay. And what's the Sunshine Ordinance section you're referring to justify the withholding?
Admin code 6727A and 6727B states that a withholding on the basis of disclosure that is prohibited by law shall cite the specific statutory authority of the Public Records Act or elsewhere. So with that, we're stating the law as it exists elsewhere, which is the 6254F, the 6254K, and 1040.
Okay. And the ordinance is 6727A
A and B.
and B. Okay, so at the bottom line is this is not being released.
It is not being
Okay.
released.
Okay.
And then to clarify, though, you don't have anything from the other party. I'm assuming it sounds like the FBI or the federal government.
The only documents that I have are the documents that were provided to the requester.
Right. So the one that's being withheld, it sounds like there's one major document or one attachment that's being withheld, citing some type of, it was given in confidence. And so just to clarify, there's nothing you have in writing that you could show that says like an email saying, this attachment.
I did not bring any additional documents other than what has been provided to the committee already.
Okay. Is that something that you might be able to find?
I don't know.
You don't know? Okay. I mean, the purpose of this is just try to clarify anything before we get to the full.
Oh, I understand. It's just
I'm
I
assuming
can't-
someone might ask that question.
Yes, I can't. I just can't answer it if I don't
Okay.
have it. But if that's a question that I need to take
Right.
back, I can take that question.
I
back with
might
me.
help because if you're saying it was, given in confidence, having something in writing saying, please don't share this or this is in confidence might be helpful later on down the road.
Yes.
Any questions, Fiona?
Yeah, I have questions for the complainant.
Okay, so Lieutenant, thank you.
Alrighty. Thank you.
I think the complainant is going to butcher it again. That's okay, come on. Okay. Please step forward, thank you.
So, let me try to get the timeline right
Sure.
here. So, you requested other documents, and then you discovered that this one existed?
Yes.
Is that
We did
roughly-
a general request for a category of documents around the JTTF and the SFPD work generally on September 14th of 2018.
Okay.
Through that effort, the document that wasn't released was this white paper. Actually, the email that references it, in case it's helpful, is page 155 of your packet, where it shows the document as an attachment, and it says what the document is, but that document itself wasn't released in that request.
So you filed a separate request for the white paper.
Yes, so we tried initially through on October to go through our existing request for the document, and when that was denied, we went ahead and filed a new request just for that one specific document on January 10th of 2019.
And is this matter specifically about that specific request?
Exactly. So the only issue before the committee is this one document, which is it's a white paper.
Okay.
It's like a general, from what we can see from, again, the email on page 155 of your packet, it's like a general analysis of a public MOU.
Okay. I think that answered my next question, which was the same one Chair Martin had asked about describing the document that you're trying to obtain.
Right. I mean, from what we can tell from the email, right, it appears to be a general analysis on a public MOU, on a public ordinance. We actually disagree. We don't think the document fits into any of the types of records that would be exempt under 625-4F. But again, my understanding is that's not like the core issue before the committee, but happy to get into that if that would be helpful.
So I think, what do you think the core issue is for us?
Yes. So, I mean, the way for the Sunshine Ordinance, Sunshine Ordinance at its core creates stronger, broader disclosure requirements, right? I mean, the core heart of the Sunshine Ordinance is we adhere to a set of values locally for greater transparency on matters of local agencies that are subjected to the Sunshine Ordinance, which the SFPD is. And so the permissive state exemptions that were cited by the SFPD, it just doesn't take away what is at the core of the Sunshine Ordinance, which they have to reply and go through the public interest balancing test and the analysis, and to justify under the Sunshine Ordinance, meet the Sunshine Ordinance requirements that shows that this is actually you can withhold it under the Sunshine Ordinance. And that hasn't happened to date. And so really addressing those specific violations, looking at the public interest factors, looking at that test. Again, we don't know why there hasn't been an attempt to even redact the document or those components. And so the core is, that the law does not allow for a local agency subjected to the Sunshine Ordinance to just bypass the whole process based on a permissive state exemption, which, again, I don't want to take up your time, but we don't even think that applies to this document.
So who do you think produced the actual document?
I think the burden is on the SFPD to illuminate that for us, right? It's really their burden to move this forward, particularly on a matter that's at such a core, it's been at a core public interest matter and kind of at the center of some controversies for a long time. And so really we're asking for them to meet their burden under local law.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. All right. Just one quick question. The email that you referenced on page 155, is that the only reference to the white paper that you're aware of?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's the only reference. And again, please let me know. I know that we did try to send some information clarifying some of these pieces or these questions. Please let me know if you're able to kind of accept that communication or if we need to resubmit it. But administratively, that would be helpful to know, since the follow-up supplemental information does address some of these pieces.
Yeah, so you did produce some supplemental material.
It's up to the committee. Actually, can I call the Lieutenant who wallet up again?
Lieutenant
Whalen?
Wallen. Have you had a chance to look at the supplemental materials that the complainant provided?
Yes.
Okay, so you were included on those. So if, through the chair, if both parties have been able to look at the record, the supplemental materials, then it's usually at the discretion of the committee whether to include it in the packet. I would assume that it would be submitted in the full task force packet.
Yeah, and we don't object.
Yeah.
We don't
Okay,
object
that's all-
to it.
That's all that matters. Okay.
The portion that I addressed at the end of my statement was responsive to the letter that we received it, I think last night or this morning, but
Okay.
Yeah.
they're just trying to clarify it
Right.
and narrow so this hearing's
Makes it
not
easier.
overbroad. So we're trying to respond to the specific sunshine section.
My understanding, too.
Yeah.
Sure, I'll make a motion to
Okay.
include it.
Second.
Yes, we'll include those.
Yeah.
Member Yankee?
Aye.
Member Yankee, aye. Member Hensy?
I.
Member Hensy, aye. Chair Martin?
Aye.
Chair Martin, aye. The motion to include in the packet is up.
We sort of discussed it about the
Just to make sure,
things-
can I have the complaint again up here real quickly, just to clarify? I think in the agenda packet, it talks about a 6721 timeliness issue. I mean, is that pretty much moot at this point?
Yeah, I think that was part of why we wanted to, provide the additional document was just to recenter, right, the core of it. But we didn't necessarily, I mean, there was no, the core issue is that the Sunshine Ordinance piece just hasn't been addressed at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there was back and forth trying to figure it
Right,
out.
right.
Okay.
I mean, our reading of it is that there's a non-responsiveness to the extent that there's been silence
Right.
on
Okay.
the Sunshine Ordinance altogether, right?
Okay.
But I think for us, the more important pieces are actually, just bear with me, is 67.24D and I. Those are the two Sunshine Ordinance provisions that are really at issue.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Member Yankee, what do you?
I think we kind of have what we need, and
I do
I think
too.
at this point, it's worth sending on to the task force
Yeah.
to consider the actual merits of it.
I agree.
Now we'll invite, and I agree. So now we'll invite
Yeah.
we'll invite the parties back up for 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
So we're sort of closing statement.
You have 3 minutes for a closing statement if you want it.
The respondent goes first for this.
Lieutenant, you get to go first if you want to. No one's compelling you to. Okay.
The petitioner gets the last word if you want 3 minutes.
Okay. Okay.
All right. So
Okay, so I would make the motion then that the record is that we have jurisdiction, and it's a public record, and then to send it on to the full task force for consideration.
I'll second.
Okay.
Yep. Public comment at the motion.
Public comment
Yep. At the motion.
regarding the motion? Anyone want to talk about it? Okay. See no public comment.
Roll.
Yep.
Please.
Motion to send to the full task force to find jurisdiction at the matter as public record. Member Yankee?
Aye.
Member Yankee, aye. Member Hensy?
Aye.
Member Hensy, aye. Chair Martin?
Aye.
Chair Martin, aye. The motion passes.
Thank you very much for taking the time to be here. You're very welcome.
Do we want to call back the first item? Okay. She's here. Okay.
In the Terrence Karasik matter, Susan Gard is here. She can
Okay.
go over the case.
Good,
So
okay.
do you want to get that?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Shall I call it again?
Yes, please.
Item number 4, file number 19015, complaint filed by Terrence Karasik against the Department of Human Resources for allegedly violating Section 6721 by failing to respond to a public records request in a timely and/or complete manner.
Complainant, please step forward. You'll have 5 minutes. Thank you for being patient and agreeing to
Okay.
wait. Appreciate it.
So this is all
Hang
new.
on.
Wait, we got to set the
Hang on.
timer.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Go ahead.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead, sir.
So I'm here because this all stems back kind of to 2015 for the most part. I was serving a probationary for a supervisor, Glazer Supervisor 1 position. And in September of 2015, I was released from my probation and given no reason why, still to this day not given a reason why that I was removed. So I sent a request to Civil Service Commission for inspection service in October 21st, 2015. They sent me an email back. Michael Brown sent me an email back stating that it was out of their jurisdiction and falls under DHR's jurisdiction. So then for whatever reason, DHR released it over to DPW, who was the department who released me from the probation. And I didn't get a response back until March of 2016, so 5 months and 6 days or so before I got a response back to any of it. And basically it said that that DPW did a thorough investigation and basically that DHR found no wrongdoing in any of my complaint through the inspection service that I had sent originally to Civil Service. My problem is that they never released any of the information for the investigation, I guess you could say. And with transparency and all of that in the city now, I believe that at least I should get to view what actually was transpired in this investigation, because the person that was put into the charge of the investigation was only worked for the city and county for 3 months at the time. She regularly went to lunch with Kevin Sporer, which is the superintendent that actually released me from DPW, and it's still a little bitter, to say the least. Following that, it's been nothing but disciplinary action against me. The latest was a 10-day suspension where Mrs. Bagwell actually falsified the testimony of one of my coworkers in the Skelly hearing for the wine garden, and I could prove that. I had a lawyer. Went out and got counsel and a private investigator, and it still went nowhere. They still gave me the 10 days off. And speaking with Larry Stringer last week, which was one of the people who signed off on the 10-day suspension, he never even read my Skelly submission that was sent in, So they gave me 10 days off, and without even reading the Skelly submission report that me and my lawyer had given in. That's pretty much it. I mean, that I can. There were some responses back from DHR stating that. Let me see here. It says DHR cannot provide Mr. Karras with the investigative materials. He seeks for 2 reasons. First, the investigation was conducted by DPW, not DHR. The only document DHR has is the investigative report written by DPW. Second, all materials associated with an investigation are confidential and not subject to disclosure under Government Code 62 54C, as well as California Constitution, Article 1, Section 1, which incorporates federal and state laws. I don't see why withholding that has any. I don't see why they can't release it. I don't think I'm a threat to anything, and I believe it involves me, so I should at least be able to, view it.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any witnesses in support? Was the phrase, Fiona, with facts or other evidence?
Yeah.
The complainant? Seeing none, ask that the respondent step forward, if present.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Susan Gard. I'm with the Department of Human Resources, and I apologize for keeping you waiting this evening. It seems that it's happening in my life with some regularity these days, so my apologies for that. And, with all due respect to Mr. Karisk, I believe the only issue before the committee tonight is whether or not I responded to his recent request for documents related to the investigation in a timely manner. And in my response to the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force complaint, he is correct. I did not respond in a timely way to that request for records. I'm fall on my sword. I've apologized to Mr. Karisk, and I do, as he just read some portion of my response to the task force. We do have an investigative report, which was provided by the Department of Public Works. We don't have the details of the investigation because that resides with the investigating department. I consulted with legal counsel on this matter, and because there was no evidence found against the person on which, so Mr. Karisk made an allegation that someone in his department had forced him to falsify time records, and that investigation did not lead to any findings against that person. And so in the interest of that person's privacy, we withheld the investigative report. And so that's all I have to in response to Mr. Karisk's complaint to the task force. I'm happy to answer questions if you have any.
Thank you very much. Is there any witness in providing evidence or facts in support of the respondent? Seeing none, I guess we can discuss this.
I have a question. Who's your question for?
The respondent.
Okay, I had a question for the
Ms. Gard, can you
respondent too.
please
Okay. So
Good.
I'm
Okay.
here.
I'm trying to get you while
We're trying
you're
to
for once.
plan our questions
Yeah.
here.
Okay. Do you want to go first?
Is this an ongoing investigation?
It is not. The investigation has been closed.
Okay.
Okay. The question I had was, it sounds like we're just talking about one document.
Correct.
That you have, and everything else you said is with DPW.
Correct.
So the question I would have is you're saying there's privacy of individuals involved, and I understand that. Is there a reason why the document could not be provided with the names of those individuals who are part of the investigation redacted from it? For example, obviously you just stated here that the investigation found that there was, no wrongdoing or something along those lines, right? So I would imagine there was probably some paragraph or concluding sentence of the report that could be revealed because you just told us that there was no findings. So I was just wondering if the sensitive portions could be redacted, but those unsensitive portions could be turned over.
Right. Certainly that's possible. I did consult with legal counsel and am following the guidance they gave me. And so if it's something you would like me to go back and discuss with legal counsel, I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, it would probably be helpful before we get to the full, if we do, I would assume we
If you
will.
recommend it, go to the task force,
Right,
yes.
yeah.
And I have a question along those lines. So, is there a reason that now that the investigation is complete, is there a reason why it still can't be turned over now that it's a completed investigation?
Yes, and the reasons are what I stated in my response to the task force, and just from a practical matter, there are persons who were implicated as having done wrongdoing, and the investigation didn't find any wrongdoing, and so the release of their names, their personal information, even though the investigation found no wrongdoing, it still can be pejorative against that person that their name was brought up in this manner, and so I'm being cautious and protective of that person's privacy.
And do you have a code section you're citing for that?
I do. Unfortunately, I rushed over here without a copy of my letter to you. I'm really sorry.
No problem. We have it in
And
the
I'm not an
packet.
attorney, so I quoted my
Okay.
legal counsel's guidance there in the letter, and so I wouldn't be able to really speak in detail about that legal authority anyway.
But we could include it for the full task force if you decide to go ahead.
It's in the material, so.
Yeah, it looks like it's page 75.
I just don't have it in front of me, so.
So just to be clear about the chain of custody for the investigation materials, it sounds like DPW produced it,
Correct?
okay, and then you guys have it,
A report.
a report based on what the investigation finds.
Correct.
But the report was produced by DPW.
Correct.
You then referred Mr. Karisk back to DPW.
I did not. I, in my response to the commission, I say that we have the investigative report. DPW has the rest of the investigative materials that would have been the basis for their report. I did not refer him to DPW to make a request. I simply responded in regard to the materials DHR is the custodian of.
Okay. Does DPW still have those materials?
I'm not sure what the record retention policy is, but I would say that it hasn't been that long, so it seems likely to me that they might have them.
Is it their obligation to turn those materials over to you once the investigation is completed?
No, they completed the investigation. It was their investigation. They're not obligated to turn the materials over to us, just to report back on what they found.
And why do they report back? This is, again, pretend I don't know anything, which is...
Sure.
Why do they send the report to you?
As Mr. Karisk discussed in his testimony, he wrote to the Civil Service Commission. The Civil Service Commission said, hey, that's not our jurisdiction, it's DHR's, because it was a release from probation. So the Civil Service Commission doesn't have authority over that. Human Resources Department does. And so we asked the Department of Public Works to conduct an investigation into Mr. Karisk's allegations. Sorry, I'm butchering your name. With regard to the release from probation, the department is within its right to release from probation for any reason. They're not obligated to tell someone why they were released from probation. It is the final stage, basically, of your employment interview, and so there was no relief that we could give Mr. Karisk in regard to his probation. And so we asked the DPW to look into his other allegations in case there were some merit to those issues, which would have negatively impacted his probation.
And what's a release from probation?
Basically, you go back to your old position. And Mr. Karisk's place, because he's already a permanent civil service employee, and so he just goes back to his regular position.
Okay. Are you aware of whether the allegations that began the investigation were levied before or after his release from probation?
They were levied after his release from probation.
And then the investigation was undertaken?
Correct.
I think that's...
So, and perhaps this got answered and I just missed it. So, did the document in question at some point end up in the custody of DHR?
The report, the investigative report is in, yes, we have a copy
Okay.
of that.
Okay.
Not the investigation materials themselves.
Okay.
Simply a summary report of the investigation.
Okay.
Just quickly, have you communicated with DPW at all? Is DPW even aware of the complaints? No. Okay.
Unless Mr. Karisk has reached out to them and asked them for investigative materials, which I'm not aware of whether he has or has not.
And until your response to his complaint with us, he was not aware that. I'm just asking. He wasn't aware that you didn't have the materials that went along with it.
I assume so. Yes.
Do you know that before, or is that just like
I'd have to ask him whether he knew that before or not.
Okay.
Any further questions?
This is the last question I have, Ms. Gard, is right now anyway. I don't think it's disputed that early on there was a delay in getting a response back to him, and I think you acknowledge that. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
I got a question for the end.
For Mr. Karras?
Yeah.
Hey, Mr. Karras, can you step back up here? Thank you.
So, Mr. Karras, is the summary report that the respondent is referencing, is that the document that you're seeking?
Well, I was seeking mostly, I was really looking for the reason why my probation was ended. I had done,
Okay.
prior to being awarded the position, I was the acting supervisor for a year and a half, and I was given no credit for that acting time towards my probation, which I believe is DHR's jurisdiction as well. As well as that is the acting position I was in was misclassified. I believe it should have been a provisional position because it was a permanent civil service that was, what had happened was the previous supervisor had resigned. So it was an open spot, and for 3 years it was open. And I believe that the acting positions are only supposed to be used as short-term, 1,040 hours maximum, and I was doing it for a year and a half, so 2,000, almost 3,000 hours, and given no credit towards my probation or any of my supervisor probation. So that, really, and it was the last day. I only had a couple hours. They extended it for my vacation time on 9/2 of 2015, which was the final day of my probation, the end of it. And 15 days later, they clipped me, and never told me why.
That's what I think I'm a little confused about, is that it sounds like DHR is talking about one thing, an investigation report related to someone else, and you want to know why you were probation
ended.
Release from probation happened.
Yes.
Right?
That's part of it, yes, correct.
Is that it, or is that part of it?
Well, I guess, that's the
Because
main.
I just want to remind you what we're capable of doing here.
I understand.
And it's
Yeah.
there's a lot, that goes into these situations, and it sounds like you had legal representation, and I think you're part of a union, and you go through the Skelly hearings and all of that.
Yeah.
And I know there's document production and stuff involved in that scenario. What we can do here is decide. Ms. Gard said she did not respond to your request timely, per the ordinance, and if they're saying they're not going to produce something that you may not even want, at the end of the day, I don't know if you've requested that. We know what I mean.
Help.
Right.
Anything. Because like I said, I was basically thrown to the curb with no information at all. Why?
Right.
So if they could produce a summary report, that's something that you would be satisfied with, hypothetically.
Well, hypothetically, yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting
Okay.
to see what it says. Yes.
When we're done with, I have a question back for the respondent again, Ms. Gard.
Yeah, Mr. Karras,
Along those lines.
I don't have any more questions right now.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
So thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so getting to what the complainant was kind of talking about. So it sounds like there's an investigative report. Is that an investigative report regarding allegations of wrongdoing on other employees' parts, or is that an investigative report regarding the reasons why the complainant was released from probation?
The former.
The former. So
The investigative report is related to an allegation Mr. Karisk made against another employee who he alleged had committed some wrongdoing.
okay, that's helpful. So are there any documents that would relate to the reasons why?
Mr. Karisk
yes.
was released from probation. To my knowledge, there are not. I don't know whether DPW has any documents related to that. The Department of Human Resources does not.
Does not. Okay.
Yes.
Questions, Fiona?
Not at the moment, no.
And I wanted to say thank you for bringing the attention back to what we're actually, what the task force is
Of course.
here to
Yeah.
do, right?
All right. You're welcome.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about this a little bit. So, Fiona, what do you...
So it's always a tension when we get these cases that are involving cases, for lack of a better term, under investigation, right? I mean, I feel like on the timeliness issue we have enough to bring to the full task force. I don't know what there is else that we can do, but
I kind of agree. Member Yankee, what do you...
Yeah, I mean, I guess my concern going forward is if there may be another department that has more responsive documents that the complainant may be looking for. It sounds like the investigative report, well, maybe, interesting, he may, be interested in it, may not fulfill the, totality of what he's looking for. So it doesn't sound like, maybe if you could come back up real fast, I did have a question. Prior to this process, and the complaint going through our task force, were you ever informed that DPW may have some of the documents that you're looking for?
No, like I said, I have sent, my original request was the civil service. They, in return, emailed me back saying that it was DHR's jurisdiction. Now, what the investigation was about was my superintendent ordered me to falsify time records on a project. And it was right at the beginning of my probation. I mean, the day of the start of my probation. And that was what the investigation is about, is on my complaint that my superintendent...
Okay, so let me know if this is, because I just want to know if I'm thinking wrongly or correctly. Are you thinking that the reason your probation ended is because you were ordered to falsify the time?
Oh, yeah, that's, I believe...
Or a possibility?
Possibility, yes.
Okay, so we see this sometimes with complainants where they request records from one place, they're referred to another place, and they're referred to another place, and end up back at the original place. Have you made a records request from DPW?
The only request I got made was for my personnel file.
Did they produce it?
They did. But it has nothing in it, just,
Does it have any mention of your probation being ended?
No. See, that's another thing with DHR and Civil Service. Civil Service, it has nothing in their inspection records in their annual report, nor does DHR's have anything stating about my probation at all. I mean, there's nothing. If I go on sfgov.org, I can't find anything about my probation, which I know that DHR's annual reports show they do show the release of probations and details for them, but mine has nowhere to be found.
My concern here would be that if we referred it to the full task force at this time, because the complaint right now just seems to be with DHR, and it sounds like there may be other documents where we don't know because obviously they're not here, with DPW, that we may send you back to the beginning and have you go through this all over again. And so I don't want to waste your time and everyone else's time. I mean, what I'm thinking is to have you come 2 more times, right? Resolve it with DHR and then start at the beginning with DPW. It'd be kind of nice if we wrapped all this up into one.
I agree.
So now that it sounds like DPW may be a place to look also, I wonder if it wouldn't be worth affording you the opportunity to put in a request with them, see where that goes, and then we could proceed
Yeah,
and resolve it all at
That's an
once.
interesting idea.
Mr. Karras, we're not telling you to go out. You do what you want to do.
Right.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
we're just trying to see the most efficient, clean way to do this.
I agree.
And, it's one thing if you make the request on DPW and they come back and they say, we're not producing it for X reason, and then you're at a stalemate, and that happens. You end up back here. But at least we know that the efforts have been made and the hoops have been jumped through. It sounds like, to narrow down your request for what you want and be specific, and if that's something you want to do, and then you'll get a response. I mean, we have enough, I think,
I
for
mean,
a
I think
timeliness issue, which is why we're really here.
right,
in the first
right.
place. So,
And
Yeah,
we-
exactly.
I just don't want to have you go to the full hearing and then you still go back to DPW. So I don't know if if you would prefer to. I don't know if there's a way to hold
Should
off
I-
on this.
so in your best judgment, should I put a request in for my?
I can't say. I mean, it's
Yeah.
you have
Right.
we just want you to do what within the confines of the task force and what you're allowed to do to try to obtain the documents that you want to. We're not going to make you do it, or I don't care really what you do.
Yeah.
It just sounds like you didn't
Yeah,
know before. Now that DPW may be the one. I mean, part of the Sunshine Ordinance and was it 6721 is saying the custodian of public records shall assist the requester in identifying the existence if it's maintained by some other party. Doesn't sound like you were really informed the DPW may be another place to look here.
I wasn't informed
So-
about a lot of things that from
Right.
that date.
So I think now that that's clear to you, I think it's worth, I mean, it's up to you if you wanted to proceed based on this request with DHR.
I mean, I
but
can request. I have no problem requesting the, records if they have anything on it, and then
Well, they'll let you know.
yeah.
I mean, it can't hurt to shake a tree, right?
Right.
You
That's what I'm
know.
thinking. At least, you'll have, pursued all
Yeah,
known
I agree.
avenues,
All
right,
right.
to get you the information that you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, how does it proceed? If I do get the request back or whatever the records, do I go back and put another request through with?
So, yeah, I
Which
mean,
I
I
normally-
guess that's the question. Is there a way to, can we, do
Yeah, I
we
think
want to
what you would
close
do
this?
is you
or-
file another complaint.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's the easiest and cleanest way to do it.
Okay.
I think Ms. Gard let you know, listen, we have a report, we're not going to produce it. DPW may have this. You can bring them all, you can file another complaint, okay?
Put them both together.
Well, possibly. I mean, I think, listen, there's a portion of your complaint, which is the main reason you're here, which has to do with timeliness.
Yes.
Okay, that we will refer most likely.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
to
I-
task force. But
right,
That's pretty much a black and white issue.
Okay.
Right, along with the one report that DHR has. But it doesn't sound like what they have, even if they were to release that in its entirety, necessarily answers all the questions that
Yes,
you
that's
have.
true. That
Right.
is
So, I mean,
Yeah, again, I'm not going to tell you what to request or not request, but you have to ask yourself, if you went to the full task force and actually got some miracle that day, the report you're asking for that we've discussed here for 15 or 20 minutes, would that solve your problem? Would that satisfy you? And I'm going to guess no.
Probably well, no.
Okay.
But at
Yeah.
least
It would be something.
Right,
You know, and
right,
that's-
right.
right. So I guess, you can kind of let us know how you feel. I mean, did you want us to maybe look at the DHR issue separately and have you go on DPW, or did you want us to hold off on this while you do the DPW thing and then see where we want to go after that?
Yeah, I mean, the way I feel, if it's DHR's jurisdiction, they should have done the investigation, not handed it to DPW.
Well, we can't rule on that. All we
Yeah, I
all we can rule on was what they have, and they've already.
Okay.
I think everyone's in agreement that all they have is this one investigative report, and that
Yeah.
investigative report doesn't talk about why you were released. It just talks about the separate investigation.
Well, yeah,
Right.
which is probably part of because I mean, the report is about the falsifying of the time records.
That allegation.
Right.
Yes.
And no one knows what's in that.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So, I guess what would be if you had what would be your preference? Did you want us? Would you prefer to have us send the DHR component onto the full task force separately, or would you rather hold off, see what transpires with your request to DPW, and then do it as maybe?
I'm guessing the DPW isn't going to probably hand over the that request very
Right, but you don't know.
Yes, sure.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I'll request the record from DPW, and then I could file another complaint.
I'm not sure if
through-
we should necessarily
So basically,
close this, or if we could.
basically what we're asking is, do you want the complaints to be essentially heard together? Or would you like us to forward this one on while you're in the process of working with DPW and filing that records request?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's a good way.
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
Thanks, feeling.
Right. It's like a
Yeah.
two-pronged thing. Do we want them separate or together?
And I'll just say for the ease of this body, it's probably best to have them together.
Yeah.
Yeah. And your
Yeah.
your time as well. I'm sure. You know,
Yeah.
you don't want to keep
Okay,
seeing us.
so, we'll-
Okay, so you want to go? Sorry, thank you.
Thank
I think That's
you.
all we were now. You want to
Sure.
make a motion?
So what I would recommend is.
You do get.
Oh yeah, we do get the
Okay.
we do get the rebuttals.
So actually, responding gets to go last, right?
Responding gets to go first,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
and then complaining gets the last word.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So I just want to make a couple of things clear. Mr. Karisk asked us, Mr. Karisk asked the Civil Service Commission about his release from probation. The Civil Service Commission forwarded that to DHR because probationary periods are under our jurisdiction. Mr. Karisk then made an allegation that his superintendent had required him to falsify these time records. I'm just going to say it since he's already said it in open forum. That is not under our jurisdiction. The city charter gives the appointing authority to hire, fire, and impose discipline. We forwarded that complaint of Mr. Karisk to DPW because that's under their authority to handle. Secondly, in the letter that I sent him in response on March 21st, 2016, I told him, in regard to your allegation of falsifying time records, the Department of Public Works conducted a thorough investigation into the matter and found no wrongdoing. I agree with this determination. So, in fact, Mr. Karisk knew in 2016 that the Department of Public Works conducted that investigation. And he certainly had 3 years of time to ask them for those records. And finally, the only thing at issue here is whether or not DHR responded timely to his request, his complaint to the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force. And I have already said that I did not respond timely, and I've apologized to both the task force and Mr. Karisk. But I want to make it very clear that if DHR goes forward, we don't want to go forward with the Department of Public Works. That's not what we're called here about. We're called here about whether or not we responded timely to his request. And the answer to that is no, we didn't. So we don't want to be mixed up in whatever investigation DPW conducted about his allegation about his superintendent and falsifying time records. That has nothing to do with DHR.
Right, yeah, thank you very much. Now, complainant. Where's complainant? Mr. Karisk, you get 3 minutes. If you have anything to say, that's fine. If not, it's okay.
no, I mean, I
3
think you
minutes.
guys have the details of everything at this point. Like, I think I'll go and request the records. As Mrs. Gard just said, she doesn't want anything to do with the combination of. So, yeah, I guess we'll separate them then, for the timeliness of DHR, and then I'll request the information from DPW and see where that brings me.
Okay, is that all you got to say right now?
Yeah.
Okay, we can end it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, in that case,
Yeah, I'm thinking we should probably move forward with this component.
Yeah, I
at
think
this
that's
point
fair.
in time. At least
I
close
think
that
that's fair,
off.
Ms. Gard.
And then that gives the complainant a separate.
And then,
Yeah,
Mr.
that's-
Karras, you can do whatever you want to do, okay? As far as looking for the records or not looking for the records or making requests. And then if they decline, you can obviously file another complaint. If they give it to you, then there's nothing else to do, okay? Anyways, that makes sense. So you want to?
yeah. So I'll recommend that we make a motion to find jurisdiction, and since the the respondent in this case has already admitted to a timeliness violation. I'll move to move it up to the full task force with the recommendation defined for a timeliness violation, which is 6725A, I believe they put it under.
6721.
6721.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, let's look.
25, I think it is.
25A, right?
That's for immediate disclosures, 25A.
25, yeah.
Yeah. This wasn't an idea, though.
It's 6721.
Yeah, I think it was 721.
67, with a recommendation defined for violation of 6721.
I would just add to amend that to also include that the record is public, and I think we
Oh,
should,
yeah, sure.
we
Yeah,
should take a look on whether or not that could be released in a redacted fashion.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, for the full task force.
For the,
Right, for the
For the
investigatory report that DHR
Yeah.
says that they do have. I think we should discuss that issue at the full task force as well, whether or not that could be released.
yeah, we can do that.
Complaint?
Not really. I mean, that's something you can bring up at the full task force and see what they say. But in terms of being in part of the complaint, not.
But he's asked for all the materials, notes, and reports that accompany the investigation. So there's the investigatory document. The report.
My
that
only
he-
fear is that we get there, and then it's going to be, well, DPW has that.
Well, no, DHR already has the actual report, though.
Right.
They've said that they have the report. So the question I have is, can that report be released in some type of redacted format? It doesn't sound like we've released it at all. And so if they were to redact in a certain way, could portions of it be released?
Okay. I mean, would we be, I mean, if
I don't know if it would be in our purview to compel them to do that. But, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, that's...
like, I don't know, I'm looking at the materials. Did they respond to that?
I'm looking on page 75, and it says that second to last paragraph, it says the only document DHR has is the investigative report written by DPW. So they do have something. So my question would be, can that something be released in or at least in a redacted
I mean, it's
format?
certainly something we can talk about at the full task force.
Right. That's what I think the task force should probably have the opportunity to have that discussion.
Yeah.
Right, the investigative report that the DHR says that they have.
They're in possession of
That
it.
they have, that they're
They
in
did not
possession of
prepare
it. Right, but they are in possession of it. It sounds like they have the end report, but not any of the files that went along with compiling it.
Okay, so what's the motion?
Find jurisdiction and a timeliness violation.
Okay, and then Member Yankee added on.
So I would amend to
Conclude that the record is public, possibly in redacted format, prepared in
And that-
possibly
right,
redacted
possibly.
format.
In regard to the report
the
produced by
investigative
DPW and
the
provided
investigative
to DHR.
report, right, produced by DPW and given to DHR, and that they've said that they have.
Is that a completed motion?
Sure. Public comment.
Public comment on the
Public
motion?
comment on the motion.
I suppose I'm seconding that motion.
Okay.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Seeing no public comment?
Roll call.
Yes, please.
Member Hensy?
Aye.
Member Hensy, aye. Member Yankee?
Aye.
Member Yankee, aye. Chair Martin?
Aye.
Motion passes.
So thank you very much for both of you coming. I know it's a bit of a time. I know, that's okay. Harris, very nice meeting you.
Then,
Okay.
ready to the next item?
Was that? Yeah, next item.
Next item, item number 6. Oops. Hello?
Yes.
Oh, you're there. Okay, good. I'm about to read your item.
I can hear just a little bit.
So we'll speak into the microphone more clearly. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Item number 6, file number 19018, complaint filed by Anonymous against the Arts Commission for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 6725 by failing to respond to an immediate disclosure request in a timely and/or complete manner.
Okay, so my understanding is complainant is available by phone. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Is there any particular reason you could not attend today in person?
Medical disability. I just had surgery. Chair Martin.
Okay. We thank you for the explanation. We just want to make sure if there is a disability, we can accommodate that. But is this Anne Trabeau by any chance?
I changed my name.
Okay. What is the new name?
Lacy. L-A-C-Y.
Lacy. Last name?
The last name.
No last name? Okay.
That is the last name.
Oh, that is the last name. Excuse me. What's the first name?
Anne.
Is that M or N?
Anne.
Oh, Ann.
A-N-N.
I'm sorry, Miss Lacy. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, is respondent here today? Miss Lacy, the respondent is not here.
Oh, wow.
Okay. When this happens, this is a due process forum. Okay.
I know.
So I think we'll probably have to table this item for the chair.
Oh, no. I'm ready to go. I spent hours at this.
I know. I apologize. It's the purpose of the hearing, like I said, is for both parties to be present and able to relay their side of the.
With all due respect, Chair Martin, they were duly noticed the way I was. All they had to do, and there are multiple people at the Arts Commission, I think there are probably 40 employees there. One person had to walk across the street. That's all they had to do. They didn't even bother to tell you they weren't going to appear.
No, I agree that does not reflect well upon them. I think,
but
the overarching concern, Miss Lacy, is that I just don't want to hear from them. Halfway through this next week, saying we contest everything, we weren't able to show up for whatever reason, and
I know. I'm sorry.
That's okay. It just makes it a lot easier down the road. This is not shelving it permanently. This is just trying to figure out what happened. Okay.
But if I may, I am 3,000 miles away. This is pretty standard behavior of the Arts Commission. I used to get on planes and just to appear before the complaint committee, and they would do the exact same thing, not bother to notify anyone that they wouldn't appear, not bother to walk across the street, and it would be tabled. And this is not the first time. If you could, I spent a long time preparing my presentation. If you could just indulge me for 5 minutes, I can document what I'm saying.
Ms. Lacy, there's one question from Member Yankee.
Yeah, I have a question. Initially, you had said that you couldn't be here because you had a cold or some type of surgery, and now you said you're 3,000 miles away. Is it a distance issue or is it a medical issue?
It's a medical issue. I'm in New York Hospital.
Okay, so it's both. You're out of town for a medical issue. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Ms. Lacy, we'll put you on the clock for 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Okay.
It begins.
You ready?
Yes.
Members of the complaint committee, I made a document request on March 20th at 10 p.m. It was a simple one-sentence thing. I was looking for a list of current street artists. One sentence. It would have taken less than 5 minutes to fulfill the document request. Instead, I did not get the documents. I opened the Sunshine request on March 29th, 8 days after I didn't get any response at all, and it was marked in the subject line as an IDR. March 29th was the first response I got. And then and I can document this, they forged their response. If you go to the sanfrancisco.nextrequest.com, which is the system they use, the Next Request system, the file number 19-1021 does not exist in the Next Request file. It says subject department. If you type in Arts Commission, there's 68 requests that were filed from 2018 to 2019, and there is no file 19-21. So the response that they included in the packet is either forged or somehow they are able to manipulate the system. If you look in their response, even with what they've presented to the complaint committee in the form of an email from Kate Patterson, the response was never published. That means that it was not made available to the public. So no one got to see what their response was. There was their March 21st response, which they claim that I received, was marked staff only. That is only for the staff. It's not for the requester. And the March 29th response is also marked staff only. So when you have the combination of not being marked to be sent to the complainant or respondent, and the fact that the next request was never published, it shows that I didn't get any documents or any response at all. And then when you cross-reference this by going to the sanfrancisco.nextrequest.com and typing in Arts Commission and pulling up all the requests, you will not find a file number 19-1021. So that is evidence that I did not receive not even an initial response, which should have taken place within 24 hours, taking into account that it was sent at 10 at night, that would go into the following day, that would leave 24 hours. I didn't get a response in 9 days, which is why I filed the complaint. So I have not had hearings in front of the task force in probably 6 to 8 months, but this is typical of what the Arts Commission does. I can't tell you definitively that they forged their response, but I can give you evidence proving that there is no record of this next request system. So I have, okay, that's it.
You have 30 seconds.
30 seconds. It was a simple one-sentence thing that, once again, was a simple and routine issue. Then they throw up a lot of, for me, it's background noise. The fact that Ann Trickey believes that it's me and tells Kate Patterson to fill in standard verbiage. An unserved restraining order has no bearing on a sunshine request.
Okay, so that's the time. So thank you for the 5 minutes.
Okay.
And, as I said, that they have not shown up here today. So the cleanest and I think
Yeah.
decision would be to table the matter for the call of the chair. Fiona, what do you think?
Yeah, I'll say that I'm not comfortable moving this forward before I hear from the Arts Commission
Okay.
out of this committee.
I would agree.
Okay. Correct.
Sure.
Is there any public?
I guess we're not doing it about it. Okay.
Okay. Any public comment?
I can't hear.
Sorry, Ms. Lacey. Any public comment on
Yeah.
the motion here in the hearing room?
Okay.
It's okay. Seeing none, close public comment. Vote on the motion.
Member Hensy?
Aye.
Member Hensy, aye. Member Yankee?
Aye.
Member Yankee, aye. Chair Martin?
Aye.
The motion to table the matter passes.
So when do you expect this would be heard?
I cannot provide I don't want to tell you a date and it doesn't get heard, Ms. Lacey, on that date. So you will be notified when it's on schedule for the task force. I want to wish you a speedy recovery in New York for your surgery.
Sorry?
I said I want to wish you a speedy recovery in New York for your surgery.
Oh, I just had it. Can you give me an approximate month at least?
I can't, Miss Lacey. I don't want. I cannot do that.
Wow.
I know.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Have a good evening.
Bye.
Okay.
Next item.
Yes, please.
Next item. The chair intends to call and hear file numbers 19019, 19020, 21, and 22 together. The description is complaint filed by Javed, and I hope I say this correctly, Mirsadi against David Steinberg, Public Works, for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 6721 by failing to respond to a public records request in a timely and/or complete manner.
Is complaint here, Mr. Is it Mersadi or?
Mercedes.
Okay, thank you for waiting
Yeah,
through the meeting. I appreciate it.
It was interesting.
Okay,
I
so
enjoyed it.
we've combined your complaints, okay, because it involves you and I think a similar respondent. And I hope that's okay.
That's fine with
Okay.
me.
So you have 5 minutes.
Uh,
Or is the respondent here? Is the respondent here? Okay, thank you.
Oh, okay, good.
Good.
I
That makes
didn't know who-
things
who's
easier.
not.
But go ahead. You have five minutes.
I've had a business in San Francisco for 20 years, and sometimes I had more than 150 people employed in San Francisco. I've done a lot of business with DPW, and I have requested many sunshines, some immediate and some others. And I have dealt with Mr. Steinberg, and I have always been very impressed. For what they produce, it was responsive, complete, and timely. And I've actually written many emails complimenting the process of Sunshine in DPW. And one time it was 2 CDs, it was immediate, it was redacted, some parts were eliminated, but it was done on time, and I was really impressed, and I told them I appreciate it until November of last year, that I submitted this. And I know this was big and voluminous, and I knew that Mr. Steinberg and DPW could have put it together in about a week or 2 or 3. But it was very slow, response were selective, and the reason I am told, I hope that they can verify this, that the response was produced and it was 38,000 pages. However, for some reason, city attorney decided to review it. This 38,000 pages went to city attorney, and city attorney said, we cannot open it because this file is not compatible with ours. They had to redo the file, send it to the city attorney, and they had some problem. These are the things that through the emails I have been able to gather. And finally, back and forth, they said, we can't produce this in timely manner. Why don't you provide your priorities? So I submitted 3 new ones, and they are number 2 and 3 and 4. And the duration was shortened, and instead of having all, I had only 3 people. And I was hoping that that would come very quickly, and it did. And they closed those 3 files. However, on those 3 files, I had asked for 8 items, 8 keywords. They conveniently provided 2 keywords, and the other 6 keywords are not produced. And they said, we're going to produce the 6 keywords on the first one, which is going to take another, I don't know when. So there are a lot of problems here with these. And, you know, I really can't put my finger on it. First of all, why city attorney is involved? I've had many sunshine and never had city attorney reviewing those. DPW is more than capable of redacting, reviewing it, and ensuring compliance with sunshine ordinance requirements. You know, when city attorney is here, it's just like fox guarding the hen house. Or I want to say another thing is just like Mueller's report go to White House for review and redaction and then released. I have asked for sunshine. DPW has produced it. They are more than capable of redaction, and they know very well how to comply with the requirements. But they haven't. This first sunshine has been, I think I submitted sometimes in November. I want to say about 15% is complete by now. And the other 3 that they said is complete, responsive, and closed, only 2 out of 8 items have been produced, and those 2 are very selective, and they are not the ones that I was looking for. And another thing that I want to add, they have produced so far, actually I received 2 production today. What I received is about, I want to say 95% items that are not relevant, specifications and drawings that I already have. They have produced it 3 times, and that is 600 pages by itself. I think the respondents should explain, because I'm as confused as anything else, especially having this very good experience with DPW and Sunshine in the past. I've never submitted a Sunshine complaint before. I didn't know it existed. But this time is such a mess and is non-responsive, not complete, and selective. And you know, the thing is, redaction that comes, I don't know if it's legal or not. I have no idea.
Well, thank you very much.
I thank you.
Okay. Any witnesses with evidence in support, facts in support of complainant? Okay.
So my name is John Nadler, and I'm his attorney. And I just want to give some more.
I'm sorry, sir. What was your name again?
John Nadler. So that's spelled K-N-A, D as in David, L-E-R.
Thank you.
I forgot the silent K.
That's okay. Go ahead.
So just to offer some more depth. So, for example, of the ones they closed, the 3 separate ones, London Breed, Mohammed Nuru, and Suskin, they closed London Breed after producing 41 documents. Of those 41 documents, 24 were unique, but 17 were duplicates of other documents released. So 41% of the documents released were just duplicative of it, and the vast majority of pages were duplicative because they were her newsletters. And they were incomplete. For example, there was an out-of-office email reply to an email, but the original email was never produced. And the heading for that email was something that should have been produced. I talked to the city attorney about this. She says DPW only spends 30 minutes a day on Mr. Mercedes' requests. And that's all they have to do legally, is what she told me. They haven't certified that they're complete. And then after the complaint was filed, they miraculously started speeding up their releases. I believe there was only maybe a couple in February, and then they couldn't produce them again until April, and just in the last week or two. So I just wanted to add that color in that they're attempting to cover it up by releasing lots of pages, but not actually releasing a lot of documents. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Respondent? 5 minutes, and what's your name?
Hi, my name's David Steinberg. I'm the custodian of records for Public Works.
Thank you for coming. I know
Sure.
it's been a long...
So, let's see. The original complaint was, or request was filed, as you said, in November 2018. At that point, we were aware that the complainant had filed suit against the city, and we sent it in my response. The city attorney's office had advised us that there was a litigation hold on all emails, so nothing could be deleted, and any requests that came in, we had to basically check with them. The initial request, we had our IT folks do it. Going backwards from what the last gentleman was saying, there are a lot of duplicates in these things, and that's because basically I take my job very seriously, and I don't try to weed things out based on what I think is there or isn't there. If it's responsive, I give it to them. You're going to get a lot of duplicates because when someone replies and responds, you get 7 versions of it.
Right.
I don't look at what is substantive. If it has the keywords, I send it to them. Believe me, I have no great love of reading the same things over 12 times either. So we started working with the city attorney's office to get the documents to the requester, and as he mentioned, our normal way of doing it is we ask our IT folks to do a search. They pull the files, they convert them into PDFs, we redact them for personally identifiable information, and we started to do that. We did that. I think there were 10 or 12 people that he asked for emails about. Jeremy Spitz, who works in my office, who used to do a lot more requests, and that's not part of his job anymore, but he's still stuck with finishing this one. He got through one person's, that was Alex Murillo. We met with the city attorney's office, and they said, based on their criteria, they couldn't use those PDFs because they couldn't get the files in the native format. So basically, we stopped redacting and checking those files, gave them all back to the city attorney's office. They went through all of those, and that's why Alex Murillo's were the first ones that we were able to release. And yet, it coincidentally, we started releasing them a lot more about the same time I found out about the complaint. And you can see the timeline that the city attorney's office helped us work with. We met with them and tried to do everything we could to speed up the process. When we found out the PDFs weren't working, we investigated a couple different ways. We got the files again in PST form. We gave it to them. Their IT people worked on it. They actually went out of their way and they engaged an outside vendor, an outside company to do it at great expense, but we were trying to get through them. And we were instructed they had to view them for attorney-client and because of the lawsuits. And as soon as they could turn them over to us, we could then continue to do our regular redactions. And because basically I'm the only full-time person who works on this stuff, although, as I said, Jeremy's gotten pulled in. When we got to this rule of reason, we've commit to spending 30 minutes a day working just on that. I had 2 other rule of reasons I was doing the exact same thing for, one of which I was finally able to just close. Obviously, can't spend all of my day working on this, but 2.5 hours a week, we can make it through the stuff once we got it. We have received, what were they? We received from the city attorney's office 27,138 documents, not including the Alex Murillo ones. Those are the ones we did first, but all the next 10. and that's about 94,000 pages that we have to look at, and we do have to look at basically each and every page. There's still 2 more accounts with another 10,845 documents that the city attorney still hasn't given us back, so we haven't been able to do them. The reason that we did the other 3, and we did them relatively quickly, is because he asked for the same search terms. They were the same time period. It wasn't a shortened time period. He just added two new search terms rather than have our IT folks pull all, whatever it was, 12 or 15 search terms. We had them pull just the 2 new ones, excluding all the other ones, so that we could get those out faster, because all the other ones are going to be included in the initial complaint, which, as I said, we've been starting to turn over to him.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Any witnesses with facts or evidence in support of respondent? Seeing none?
I have a question for the respondent.
All right. Back up. Yes.
You mentioned you were invoking the rule of reason.
Yeah.
Who did you receive guidance from?
The city attorney's office.
Okay, so not from here.
Yeah, we because, as I said, we didn't even have the documents back from the city attorney's office after we already invoked an extension. So I conferred with the city attorney's office, and I sent him a letter.
Question is, how did you find out there was lawsuit involving complainant?
Well, because I'm the custodian of records, I get copied whenever there's a litigation hold sent to the department. So I got a copy of. I was copied on 20. I think it was like 24 emails, all different people. I think all of whom, or most of whom, are on that list that he requested. So I was aware of it that way. And as he said, he submitted 10 records requests starting back in 2017, which we've responded to.
Does the notice of litigation, or whatever it is, from the city attorney's office, does that pertain to certain city actors or the person requesting the records?
I don't have that language in front of me.
You know what I mean? Like,
I think it's involving the litigation against the city, because it's Synergy versus City and County of San Francisco, and he was submitting it as.
So if if an anonymous person had requested the same records, would there have been a litigation hold on the?
Well, there's a litigation hold on all emails related to those things, but I still would have had to consult with the city attorney.
No matter who requests them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So he submitted 10 requests, and his attorneys have submitted 1, which we're still working on right now.
Okay. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but you began to process them, right? You began to go through the records and push them out. The city attorney goes, well, hold on a minute. We need to look at these before they go out. Is that correct?
Sort of.
Kind of.
We, as I said, we got one email. Again, the way the IT team does it, they look for I give them the parameters,
right,
and they come back with files, and each file is a separate email account. So if you had an email that had the responding words and you had an email that had the responding words, I would have separate files for each one. We had them convert one of those files, which takes a real long time. And so we started looking at that. And we met with the city attorney, we advised the city attorney, and then we met with them, and they basically kind of said, this format doesn't work we can't really use this format because.
So had you sent them to the city attorney and then they realized it didn't work? Or how long was the delay caused just by that interaction?
Okay.
Just an estimate. I don't need the exact.
Let's see.
Weeks or months or.
No. It was. Let's see. We acknowledged the request. We did it. Okay. So we. That was December 4th. We started reviewing. December 6th, we did an extension. December 20th, Jeremy finished his review of the first set of documents and provided copies of the city attorney's office. And that's the day that he did the rule of reason. And then it took another 8 days for the city attorney's office to give us back the first batch that they had reviewed, and that's kind of when they said, this doesn't really work. And so it would have taken, it would have extended the amount of time by so long, so that's when we try to come up with a better way of doing it. So they found, I'm just reading from my response,
Right.
the city attorneys found that review of the documents in PDF was time-consuming and inefficient when compared with its normal practice. So we worked with them, and they came up with this other way of doing it. So we didn't convert any more. We didn't do any of our privacy redaction stuff.
So it's essentially doing two levels of doc review. They do their attorney-client review, and then you do your redaction review.
Exactly.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Whereas the first one was just the opposite. We did our privacy one and gave it to them, and then they said, this format doesn't, we can't really work with it.
Okay. And so far, there's been 27,000 something documents released. Is that
There have been.
what you have?
Okay.
Sorry, I think I heard something.
Yeah, something like that. Alex Murillo's, there were 11,855 pages. That was just the first, those PDF ones that were in the wrong, like, the unfortunate format. And then we've released all of Bernie C's. Those are 15,233. So of the ones we've gotten back from the city attorney's office,
Yeah.
there are 27,000 documents, which represents about 94,000 pages. And then we have the final two account files, and that's for Mohammed Nuru and London Breed.
Are those the only two outstanding?
Those are the only two that the city attorney has, and that is about, I think it's 10,845 documents, so probably another 30,000 pages.
And have you, for the completed 27 from the attorney's standpoint, have those been forwarded to Mr. Mercedes?
Of those, 27,088 have been sent. Those are for Alex Murillo and Bernie C.
So 88 total?
27,088 pages have been turned over to him so far.
Okay.
And then we have
Maybe 30,000 pages.
about 80,000 more to go through.
Pages or documents?
Pages.
Okay. Okay. I think, and I'm sorry, along the way, when he first made the request, Mr. Mercedes made it sound like you have interacted many times. It's
Yep.
been a good interaction up until this point. You guys, were you staying in contact with him and letting him know we need an extension and this is the hiccup, or
For this
all this
batch?
stuff? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we have, sort of a template that says we're
Okay.
waiting. We invoked the extension, and then we had to do the rule of reason, and
Okay.
and then, as I said, we were finally able to start producing stuff. I think just about the same time we did the rule of reason, we said, Jeremy sent a note saying, and we're giving you the first, 2 batches.
It's like a rolling basis at this point.
Yeah, basically, as soon as he got the ones from Alex, he started going through them and has been producing them.
So as they're ready, they go to complainant.
Yeah, and as I said, we committed to doing 30 minutes a day, although actually Jeremy has done, he spent 8 hours and 45. We started counting on the day that we met with the city attorneys. So he's actually averaging about 40 minutes a day just on the redaction, not, answering stuff.
Is there questions?
Just one real quick question. Just how frequently, on a rolling basis, are you providing? Like once a week, or?
It kind of depends. I try, when I do this, I try to do it basically every day. Jeremy has been doing it. He was out sick. His kid was out sick one day, so he's been. So
basically, at the end of it, once that review's done, then you send the documents.
Usually, yeah.
Okay.
And although, like I said, he was out a couple days, so he put in an hour one day and sent a lot more files because he didn't send any the day before. I can show you if you.
Okay,
want
I was
the
just curious
dates.
if you wait to have 2 weeks worth before you.
Oh no,
send them out or something.
I mean, maybe. I mean, once a week, I would say would be the latest, but generally we try to do it every day. I mean,
Gotcha. Okay.
because I ask him to log the amount of next request has a function where you can put your time, and we don't do that. Some departments do with every request. We don't unless we get to the point that it's rule of reason, and we commit to doing a certain amount of time each day, and so we log the time.
What's the date that you got these back? You started. doing this?
Let's see. Where'd my little sticky tape go? There we go. The first batch, the ones that Jeremy reviewed and redacted and gave to the city attorney's office. Oh, sorry, I have a timeline. Sorry. Okay, Alex Mario's emails were sent to the city attorney's office on December 20th. On the 28th, we got the first batch back, and he uploaded them the same day and released them. On January 2nd, he got the second batch, again, uploaded and released them the same day. We met with the city attorney, received and released on February 14th, the fourth batch. Basically, the idea is, because he'd already done privacy review of them.
Yeah.
Basically, the day he got them, he released them, and that was the case.
Okay.
That was the case with all of the three that we closed. The day that they came in, we went through them, we closed them, and he sent them and he closed them. So I mean,
The two remaining accounts, they're with the city attorney's office.
those are the two that we haven't gotten back yet. So
So you can't control about when you get those back for an estimate, or
well, let's see. We got the big bulk of the requests back from them on. I don't have that. I don't have the date. I can find it, but they gave us that 27,000 documents, which is about 94,000 pages, and it took Jeremy 2 weeks to get Bernie C's 15,233 pages looked at and fully released. So that averaged 7,600 pages a week.
yeah, okay. So
So
since the other two accounts are with the city attorney right now, and you can't control when you get those back, I assume you don't have a time estimate of how long it'll take to disclose the remaining documents since you don't have those back.
the ones that we don't have back yet, no.
Yeah.
I mean, if it takes as much time as it did for the last batch, the ones that we have now will probably take about 10 weeks to get through.
Okay.
And then if it's about the same amount of documents and pages, if the 10,845 documents translates into about 30,000 pages, that'll probably take another 4 weeks.
Okay, I've got no more questions.
Thank you.
Sure.
You might be back up. Yeah, complaint. We have probably a few questions for you.
Mr. Martin, you actually asked the question that I was going to ask.
Well,
Had I had my neighbor do this request?
Oh, the anonymous question. Okay.
My neighbor. Why
Yeah.
anonymous? Would city attorney be involved? Probably not. And city attorney shouldn't be involved. Mr. Steinberg has been doing this for years. He knows the law. He knows what needs to be redacted. He knows has to be taken out. Why do we need a city attorney? I was hoping the city attorney would be here to defend their position. I have nothing. This gentleman is a fine man, and I really think he's done a very good job. That's where the bottleneck is. My suggestion is that city attorney should not be involved. This gentleman should do whatever he has done for years and release it. If that is not possible, but it should be, because, government shouldn't have two standards, one for me, one for my neighbor. Cannot have it. City attorney cannot say, I'm not going to give you this document because it's damaging to Mr. Nuru, or it's damaging to Mr. Martin or Fiona. Cannot say that. So we can't have two standards. Now, if we have here the power of eliminating city attorney from this, excellent.
Yeah,
But if not, city attorney should provide us with redaction list. If this gentleman provided the city attorney with 10,000 documents, they should come back and say release 9,000. These there's a log. We are not releasing this because of that. We are redacting this because of that. There should be some, their just city attorney has no accountability here. Hey, this is damaging. No, I don't want them to have this one. I keep it. And again, there's two standards here, one for me, one for my neighbor. And I thank you so much. You just said what I wanted to say. If there's any question, I'll be happy to entertain.
Well, thank you. And I think I just want to clear up something, and it may not even be, it's not a pointed question. It just is, do you think your main issue is with the city attorney's office and not with respondent who's here today? Do you know what I mean?
No, please. I don't understand exactly.
That's okay. It sounds like the main issue is that the city attorney's office is involved, period, correct? It's not with how he's responded to the complaint. It's not that he hasn't kept you informed about a volume of documents and getting them to you. It's that the city attorney is delaying the document release. Is that right?
As you know, the thing is that I gather all the information, I look at it. This gentleman had completed long time ago in December. But, first it was that we can't convert, then we don't have the software, and then I don't know. That is my frustration. And, I am paying a lot of money on attorneys, and it's a lot of time on this. Since November, I haven't had anything that's useful. And I tell you what, another thing that I should say.
That's another thing I want to bring up a little bit here is that they've produced documents, right?
Yes.
Okay. There's no promise that they're going to be useful. They can just be a bunch of documents.
I agree.
But have they produced documents, whether they're useful or not? Have they produced them on a rolling basis? Like when they're ready, they come out. I know some of them will be duplicative. The flip side of that coin is that, well, they didn't produce something, and I get to decide if it's duplicative, right? So have they produced stuff as it's been made available? It sounds like they have, for the most part.
Yeah.
But let me answer that one. They have produced what's irrelevant. On the original one, I have asked for certain documents for certain people that start from 1 to assume 15. If they were responsive, they would go number 1, 2, 3. But what they have provided, number 11 and 12. Why they skipped over London Breed, Mohammed Nuru, Susan Soskin, and went to Alice Murillo, who's the lowest person on the thing, and then they provided me, this is the list. If they're not selective in their process, they would go with number 1, 2, 3, 4. They went to number 11 and 12. And they are the people that are least important.
Yeah, I don't know the rationale, Mr. Mercedes, for doing that. Maybe that's the easiest one, and they just want to give you documents, and they're still trying to do the other work. It sounds to me like they're trying to get those documents at some point to you. Okay, and my impression is that as soon as the city attorney okays those, respondent will give them to you. Again, it sounds like the block is with the city attorney's office. Again, it doesn't matter to you. You just want the documents. I know that.
I want the document, and I want to know what has been redacted by city attorney. Because, the thing is, this is city attorney is part of this, and they can't just say, you can't have this document, because it's not their decision.
Have to explain
it's
why.
Your decision. You, as a public entity, you can make the decision, or some outside consultant can look at it and say, yes, let's redact this. Not the city attorney.
Oh.
I have problem with that.
A lot of people do.
It's just like, as I said, it's just like White House redacting Mueller's report and send it to public, or Fox guarding the kitchen.
I think there's two layers here. One is you get the documents. Two is why there's redacted things on the documents. Exactly. Why are they redacted? Okay.
Getting it responsive in order, not go another one that's not important. Provide. In order, I prioritize. I gave them 3 new sunshines. And on those 3, they just provided 5% of it.
Well,
And
again,
the rest of it say we go.
right. Again,
So
I can't.
provide it to me, and if there's any document that's been redacted or eliminated by anybody, that should be identified.
Understandable. Okay, so I think we're going to talk about this for a little bit amongst ourselves. But thank you for answering the question. We might have more for you. Do you guys have questions for
No.
Mr. Mercedes right now?
No.
No, I mean, just overall, though, I mean, my concern at this point is that it sounds like we kind of need to hear from the city attorney.
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't think that, you
Yeah.
know, this is where the issue is, and I'm not sure if we send it, you know, it on as is to the task force right now, that would get us any further than we are right now.
What do you
So-
think, Fiona? I mean, I think we need to.
I would. If it were me, I would continue this to the possibly the next meeting and have our clerk send a request that the city attorney appear.
Yeah, I
Right.
think that's.
I like that, too.
Yeah.
Clerk, you think that's possible?
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Okay, so is there a motion? So let me just explain. We think, like probably everyone in here, that the city attorney should be here to kind of at least tell us what's going on and why their policy is the way it is. Okay? It does not give you any resolution today. It doesn't
And
give
you'll have
you.
to go-
It
so-
doesn't give you a hearing in front of the full task force in a
Yes.
month. Well, right.
Yes.
He has to come back
Yeah,
here.
he has to go back here,
The
yeah.
complaint committee. So you get to
Yes.
spend more time with us.
Oh,
Okay. So that's so sorry.
that is.
But
But may I
I
ask
think.
you
Go ahead.
Have you had this situation like mine before, that city attorney has been involved in the release?
Well, the city attorneys get involved in matters when there's things that are part of litigation that involve personal information of workers, or there's a real interest there, and there's certain parts of the ordinance that allow them to redact or claim litigation privilege to documents.
Not
And
part of Sunshine Ordinance.
There's certain exemptions to sunshine that are out. They're not absolute, okay, but they can claim them. Okay, so that's why this body exists. So, but anyway, it's not going anywhere. You're at the level where we're trying to bring everyone in and figure it out. Okay, so I don't think anyone in here likes that the party who could maybe answer a lot of the questions isn't here to kind of explain that. Respondent here is trying to get stuff done, and he does very professionally as soon as he takes great
Agreed.
pride in his work. And you're trying to get information, and the party that seems to be responsible for the delay is not here. So, we'll have the clerk. We'll request that the clerk send out notice for the city attorney to be present at the next hearing.
Who is your city attorney?
So I want to do rebuttals.
Okay, yeah. So there's rebuttals now, which means respondent gets 3 minutes to talk again, and then you will get 3 minutes to talk again. Okay.
Hi, just a couple things. I actually asked if the city attorney could be here either today or before the full task force, and I was told that their policy is not to do that. So, just for what it's worth, the individuals that we met with from the city attorney's office or from the litigation team who were involved in the lawsuit with the requester. The city attorney, who's the point person who I generally deal with, is a different person, and I consulted with him just for things like the rule of reason and requests and stuff. I will say, I take, as I said, I take great pride in meeting the deadlines and the results. My office had got 840 records requests last year. This calendar year, we've responded at an average of the average request has been responded to within 4.2 days, with a mean of 1 day, which shows you there are a few of them that were really big and took long, but most of them we get to, almost the same day. If the city attorney says we need to see them before you can look at them, I feel like my hands are tied. But to the degree that now that they've gotten through them, now that they've given us the bulk of them, we're going through them as fast as we can. And I expect that, before too long, we'll have the last, whatever it was, 10,000 documents that we'll be able we'll be able to do. So I don't know how far out it gets scheduled, but, all of the records might be delivered to them by the time we get to a hearing anyway. And I will say, just for your information, there were a list of 25 names in the original request, and yes, Alex Maria was number 10, and Bernie Say was number 11. The reason we did it is because when IT came back with them, Alex Maria was the first file alphabetically, and Bernie Say is the next one after that. That's why we did it top to bottom, and actually we tried to be a little more intelligent about it, because Alex Maria does community outreach. And so Jeremy's rationale, which made sense, was if we go through his first, you're going to find more personal email addresses and phone numbers from community members who are asking about a project that we would have to redact. And what we do is we build up that list. We build a list so we can take the file against and say, redact all of these emails. And so he figured we'd start with what was probably going to be the largest list of community, non-public people, normal citizens that we'd have to pull out, and from there he just started going alphabetically. So that's why.
Well, thanks for the explanation. And I think you're kind of caught in the middle here.
Yeah.
So no one's questioning we recognize you take great pride. I mean, we wish everyone who was in charge of records was this responsible about doing this. I mean, really. Well, thank you very much. Thanks. All right, Mr. Zays, 3 minutes.
Actually, thank you so much. I knew he's doing a good job. Alex and Bernie, very good. I didn't know. But to me, it was just arbitrary because there's a damn, thank you, appreciate it. He's always good. But, one thing I have a problem with, it says that city attorney's policy is not to be here. Who's city attorney? Another public entity. Their policy doesn't apply. Law applies. My policy is that this. Now, city attorney has to follow the law and the rule. And Sunshine Ordinance says certain things. Now, whether city attorney or supervisor or the mayor, they have to follow the law. I don't understand. It's my policy not to do that. It's my policy. This doesn't make sense. And the last thing. Is there a minutes of this conversation somewhere that I could have?
Mm-hmm. Yes, there'll be an audio posted tomorrow. I'll post the audio of this hearing, and you can get it then. And attached to the audio is a copy of the agenda, so you can see everything there.
Thank you. I just got a little emotional, and I don't know what I said.
That's okay.
I didn't pass the line of decency.
We've heard far more emotional.
We forget to. Don't worry.
Oh, okay. Any questions? Yes, sir.
We're good.
I think we're okay. You might have let's say that, like respondent said, you receive all the documents. You still may have issues with what's produced. Okay, that would be a separate complaint, or it might be you come here in a month and you say I got everything, but it's all redacted, and I think that's wrong. That's a different issue. They've produced it, right? So just keep that in mind. Okay.
I think at this point, because we seem to be hearing third hand that city attorney says this is the policy. I think it absolutely makes sense to have
we can
reach out
to the city attorney
and get that directly and see what they say. But I think it makes a lot of sense to reach out and see if, ask them to come and see what they say. I mean,
although it might be against their policy.
Then they can at least tell us not. I don't want to hear it.
This doesn't make sense to me that somebody's policy is, my policy is to do 75 on 55. It's my policy.
And that's something perhaps next meeting we can discuss.
It can't set precedence.
Yeah, so with regard to it being their policy, that's not something we can control, but it's been a sort of ongoing thing with that particular. But we can see if we can have our clerk write to them and see what comes.
They can at least respond to us in writing, and the worst they say is no.
At this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
No,
technically, no, we're not in public comment, so it's at your discretion.
You can. I don't mind. Mr. Sayes, do you mind if Mr. Sternberg says something?
Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you. Go ahead.
I just want to clarify in terms of when I said it wasn't their policy, because our department was named as the respondent. I guess it's their policy not to represent a city department before.
Right.
By,
No,
so
we don't want,
So that's what I was saying.
Okay,
when-
so maybe that's,
Yeah.
since they weren't a respondent, Mr. Mercedes is an official respondent named in the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force complaint, okay, they have no obligation to appear. There's an argument for that.
Yeah.
Okay? If you're not a named respondent, you're not going to show up. Okay?
Yeah.
That's,
So, yeah, I
get
think
that.
if we make the request now, that moves
They-
us on to where this was
Yeah.
before this meeting.
Anyway, thanks. I
No,
didn't
that's,
want to.
thank you. That's
Yeah.
a good clarification. It's a due process issue.
He can't speak. So, he can't speak because he already spoke when there was witnesses. When there was witnesses, he can't. He can't. So technically, he can't do a comment.
No, we have no motion
So,
yet, but you want to
I'll
make a motion
move-
if you want to?
So sure, I'll move that we continue this item to the next complaint committee meeting, and I'll move that we request that our clerk send a communication to the city attorney asking them or a representative to appear at the next meeting. And do we want to ask them specific questions that they want to be prepared to answer, or do we just want them to appear? Sometimes we give them specific instructions in our motions, like what questions.
I would say what triggered their involvement in this document request? And on what grounds?
I don't know if we want to be too limiting. I mean, we may have a lot of.
That's true.
I would just say
I
that someone who's
mean,
familiar,
yeah.
someone from the city attorney's office who's prepared to answer questions specifically regarding this litigation
There
issue.
you
Yeah, we don't want them to send anyone from the office, right? We want
Yeah,
someone
there you go.
knowledgeable on
There you
this
go.
issue.
There you
Person
go.
most knowledgeable.
All right, so
And I'd second that.
okay, public.
Well, we got a public comment on the motion.
Be brief. I agree with you. I think one question you should ask them is for clarification on the litigation hold if an anonymous or non-party asks for that. Because I know we asked people here, but they can't give the city attorney's response.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
we
you.
can
I hope
ask-
they'd be prepared to answer that.
We can ask him
question
that
at
here.
The
Right,
hearing.
yeah.
Okay. And
We-
yeah, just to comment real quickly, yeah, I feel that, yes, they are the hold because if you look at the rolling basis, it was January, February, nothing in March, and then a flurry in April. And so there were long periods where nothing was produced. And at the 10 weeks plus 3 weeks, so 13 weeks, that, just to give some indication, that would actually coincide with the close of discovery in the federal case. So it's not, I think there's some intent to delay this for as long as possible to prevent, I know that doesn't close out this, but in the federal case it might. So I just want to
Okay.
bring that up. And there was an issue that some emails no longer exist. And I know that wasn't addressed, but we can bring that up next time. That was,
Yeah, I think right now the main complaint was about timeliness and what the delays were. I think we nailed that, or not nailed it, but I think we found more out today.
yes.
And we'll have plenty of questions for the city attorney
Yeah.
when they appear here.
Well, I just wanted to say, that I think that's part of the complaint too, that they said these emails don't exist, so they've actually gotten responses back saying no documents exist anymore. So that is part of it. I mean,
Okay.
we didn't get a clarification whether they should exist.
It's hard to prove a negative, right?
Well, they said they deleted their entire email accounts. So I don't know if that's a city policy or not.
I don't know either,
Yeah.
but good questions. Okay.
Excuse me, sir. Hello? Could you spell your name, please?
Yes, last name is K-N-A, D as in David, L-E-R,
Silent K.
Johnny Nadler. Yeah, my legal name is Johnny, so Johnnny. So I said John earlier.
K-N-A-D-A-R?
What?
K-N-A-D-A-R?
D-L-E-R.
L-E.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For your consideration.
Want to take a vote?
Sure. We're good.
Member Hensy?
Aye.
Member Hensy, aye. Member Yankee?
Aye.
Member Yankee, aye. Chair Wolf? I'm sorry, Chair Martin.
Aye.
Sorry about that.
We won't tell Chair Wolf about that.
Oh, please. All right, the motion passes.
Thank you very much for attending today. I know you guys were the last item, and that can be challenging sometimes, so thank you. Doesn't go
appreciate
unnoticed.
it.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Oh, way too soon. Nope.
Call item.
Item number 11,
Oh, adjournment.
adjournment.
Their public
So
comment?
moved.
Second.
Public comment, none. Can I just hammer that one?
Yeah.
Hammer that
Yeah.
one. 7:40.
Okay, so like seriously, that guy from